What's going on, everyone? A few days late, but I am back. Paul Baroza here for the final edition of the Paul Street Journal NBA Finals video recaps. There's no more games coming, so we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to talk about big picture stuff from the NBA Finals. We're going to get right into it, but first I want to tell you a little bit about our sponsors, Coconut Paddles. Tired of having to flip your grip when you switch between shots? Sick of the ball ricocheting off your finger as you try to whip a top spin backhand cross court? Well, Coconut Ping Pong Paddles might just have your solution. Artfully engineered and crafted in Madison, Wisconsin, Coconut Paddles combine a patented precision style handle grip with an index finger hold to prevent your shots from ever bouncing harmlessly off your fingers again. Not to mention, these bad boys look damn cool too. Coconut Paddles are changing the way I play ping pong, and they can change your game as well. Just head on down to coconutpaddles.myshopify.com, enter Paul Street for a 0% discount, and pick up yours today. Cleveland, for the first time in 52 years, has a champion in a professional sport, doing it in the most unpredictable of fashions, no less, coming back from a 3-1 deficit to overcome the Warriors 93-89 in Game 7. And maybe this is not the biggest upset in NBA history of all time, but it's certainly pretty close. Golden State, the best regular season team in the history of the NBA, building a 3-1 lead and not being able to hold on. And most of that was because of the efforts of none other than LeBron James. Dude averaged 30, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 2.5 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and reaffirmed that he is the best player in the NBA. He was absolutely everywhere, controlled playing games 5, 6, and 7. And after game 2, he hit his jump shot, and as he proved, when he is hitting his jump shot, he is unstoppable in every facet of the court. Game 7, James also reaffirmed that he is the NBA's biggest douchebag, highlighted when he had his wrist blown off after getting fouled by Draymond Green right before he had to shoot big free throws. Shocking. Also shocking, the wrist didn't hurt so much after he made those free throws anymore. But the point of this podcast is not to talk about all the reasons why LeBron's a tool. It's to talk about how incredibly freaking amazing he is. Just every single thing he did in the last 3 games of the series was basically perfect. He didn't shoot that well in Game 7, but affected every area of the game. Basically set up every single Cleveland possession on offense. Hit shots. He had the huge block on Iguodala when the score was tied 89-89, maybe the best block in the history of the NBA Finals. And I think he did something that nobody really expected him to be able to do, which was heighten where his legacy can go, I guess. When he came into the league, LeBron was pegged as the next Michael Jordan. But when you're getting compared to Michael Jordan, there's a huge narrative element that is involved with that. Jordan is notoriously 6 for 6 in NBA Finals, and partly by virtue of getting there too soon, LeBron came into this Finals at 2-4, and even if he won, I think very few people would have said that winning this Finals did anything for or to improve his legacy when matching up with Jordan's. However, when you bring a title, a team its first title in 52 years. You do it by being the first team to overcome a 3-1 deficit. That changes a whole lot of things. Titles aren't necessarily all created equal, and I think doing it against the best team of all time and in the fashion he did it certainly puts LeBron in a rarefied air and maybe reopens his ability to surpass Jordan as the people's people's choice for the best NBA player of all time. In the opposite vein, Curry did pretty much the exact opposite for his legacy. 23, 5-4 average in the finals. Shot 40% from the field, 40% from three after being close to 50% for the regular season. And even if he was hampered by injuries, which I definitely believe he was, I don't know if that's necessarily an excuse for the way he played in a lot of big moments. There was the behind the back pass to Klay Thompson that went out of bounds. That was the play that most people are going to look to, but it's just all the turnovers and all the fouls and just the generally not smart play that you've seen from him over the last 2 years that led him to becoming the face of the NBA, winning 2 MVPs, winning an NBA title. I've seen Curry play well down the stretch in too many games. I've seen him be clutch far too many times to say that this performance in this finals is going to do anything long term, but it definitely hurts where he's going. It definitely forces him to have to accomplish more now going forward, where if he wins the title this year, wins another title next year, maybe even if he doesn't take up the league's MVP, if he gets a finals MVP, all of a sudden you're looking at Curry as maybe a top 5 or 6 or 7 player of all time. Now he's got to do a lot more to get back into that rarefied air, and that kind of brings me to sort of the big point of this series, and big point of what this series represents, and that's just the fragility of the legacy. Game 7 came down to one shot by Kyrie Irving, basically. A 3 contested by Curry. But as obviously the game came down to a lot more than that. The difference, I guess, was the 3 hit by Kyrie. I'm going to take Haralabos Voulgaris' numbers here. He's a pretty famous NBA gambler. Follow him on Twitter at Haralabos. Would strongly recommend it if you are not already following him. But he does an expected value of shots for teams, and the expected value for Cleveland in the fourth quarter was 0.67 per shot. They scored at a rate of 0.74 points per shot, which is a little bit better than they should have scored. Golden State, on the other hand, the expected shots for their fourth quarter were 0.89 points per shot, while they only hit at a 0.58 points per shot clip. A huge difference. And if you want to look at it in a way other than numbers, I guess you can look at it sort of just in the possessions where the score was tied at 89. There was 4 possessions in a row. Curry missed a wide open shot off a pin down screen, maybe from the right wing. Then Iguodala missed a 3 on the next possession. Then Iguodala had that layup in transition blocked by James. And then Green missed a 3 from the corner. Not showing this to necessarily beat the drum as far as a Golden State should have won, but just more so to note the high variance in the game. The Warriors didn't win, but if one of those shots goes in, if they that wide open Curry pin down, or if James goaltends Iguodala's layup instead of getting it just before it hits the rim, the Warriors probably win. And the rhetoric the next day completely flips. Golden State is all of a sudden one of the best 2 or 3 teams ever. Cleveland needs to blow it all up. Curry isn't a choker while LeBron can't get it done to the clutch. And the truth of the matter is nothing's really different. It just all came down to the variance of one shot. LeBron is probably a top 5 or 6 player of all time, regardless of how this series plays out. And while he may have retaken his position as the best player in the NBA going forward, it doesn't change the fact that Curry was the NBA's best player the last 2 years. There's a reason he won 2 MVPs in a row. There's a reason the Golden State won the title last year, and there's a reason that they won 73 games in the regular season this year. Basically what I'm saying is just everything that comes out of a series like this, when the margin is one contested shot in the fourth quarter, it's never going to be done away with, but it should. It's all rhetoric, and none of it really means anything. if you play the series out 10 times, Golden State probably wins 7 of them getting the shots that they got, in Cleveland wins 3. But it's not all of a sudden you're not all of a sudden looking back at the series and saying that you shouldn't all of a sudden look back on the series and say there was some big difference before that. What we saw in the regular season from Golden State and what we saw in the regular season from Cleveland was basically what these teams are. Cleveland was just better over this 7-game sample size. I think what the series did, though, do is it kind of either exposed or further exposed a couple things where each of these teams needs to look at going forward. For Cleveland, Kevin Love's got to go. He was pretty good in Game 7, full of energy, but as Zach Lowe pointed out in his podcast last year after the finals, David Griffin, Cavaliers GM, took note of how Dellavedova played in last year's NBA Finals, and it made him realize that you have to be judicious with how you disperse the ball around LeBron. LeBron's the best player in the world, and he needs to have the ball in his hand almost all the time. Love also is a really good player, but he also has to have the ball in his hands all the time. And when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he becomes, basically a surplus to requirements. He doesn't hit threes at a super good rate even for a big guy. And his post-up game and his ability to work the elbows don't really matter if he doesn't get the ball. That's why players like Dellavedova and Tristan Thompson and Richard Jefferson in this year's finals might not be as good of players as players like Love, not as much to a degree, but Irving. They fit better with LeBron, and they fit better with LeBron. And when you're doling out as much money as you need to keep somebody like Kevin Love, you have to be able to get other things from them besides shooting and offense. And with Kevin Love, he's an okay defender. He does some things okay, but he's always going to be below average, at least slightly, because of his foot speed. And he's just not doing enough to affect the game in any other place. For Golden State, the center position really needs to be addressed. I don't think, no matter what happens with Green's suspension in Game 5 or Curry's struggles, if the Warriors can find a center who can play effectively against Cleveland, they win this series. Bogut, Varejao, Ezeli, Speights, McAdoo were all absolutely terrible. Golden State got even worse when Bogut went out, but I'm not sure it would even have made that much of a difference if he had been in. And it's not necessarily a referendum on how good they are as players, but just how the NBA is going. Golden State, is good enough where they don't necessarily need to focus on how they need to get through rounds 1 and 2 of the playoffs. They need to focus on how they're going to beat the Thunder and how they're going to beat Cleveland. And when you don't have a center that can step up on a pick and roll and at least provide some sort of protection against somebody like Irving coming around a screen and just getting a wide open 18-footer, you're not going to be able to play very well with a player like that on the court. And you saw that in this series while Golden State was only positive in lineups where Green played at the center. Ezeli has the athleticism to effectively do this or theoretically do this. But since coming back from his foot surgery, he has not been the same player, and the coaching staff just clearly has zero trust in him in the finals. And with Bogut getting older and being as injury prone, you wonder what they're going to do. I think before the series, most people would have put their bets on Bogut being cut or traded to make room for Golden State to go after Kevin Durant or go after another free agent, and then expecting Ezeli to step up in that spot. But with how bad Ezeli was in the finals, I don't know if you can go into next season trusting that he can be your number one center coming down the stretch in these big games. And what Golden State does to shore up the center position, I think will be a pretty interesting thing going forward. I think that's pretty much everything I got for the finals recaps. Wasn't super in depth. Just wanted to touch on the Curry and LeBron legacies, which were kind of the two things that that most people have been talking about since the finals were over. And this will not be the last time you see me. NBA draft is tomorrow. Hoping to maybe get these little video things up once every couple of weeks during the off season. Talking about maybe some free agent moves, some signings, some trades. Big Derrick Rose trade today. I'll maybe write something about that. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Paul Barroza signing out.